the infinite mind, God in science, philosophy, and faith. Who or what is God? The Quran offers one of the most precise and concise descriptions of God. Islamic theology further expands upon this with various attributes of God, though not all may appear logically or rationally tenable, such as the belief that God is a metaphysical being who exists beyond the space-time continuum. As mentioned, God is unlike anything in human subjective or objective experience, or even in the farthest reach of human imagination. It is, therefore, futile to attempt to grasp his being. God is not merely one being among others, but being itself the ground of all existence. He does not become, he is the eternal now. Like the concept of a block universe, in which all moments coexist, God transcends standard time and is present in every moment simultaneously. Pure truth is not something that can be fully captured in words, it must be inwardly realized as a divine spark within the soul. God, in my opinion, is the necessary bridge across the gaps created by human epistemological limitations, serving as the resolution to the incoherence and ignorance that define man's fractured understanding of reality. This profound theological conception of God sets the stage to examine how modern science approaches the origins of the universe. Science, the singularity, and the limits of naturalism. Modern science operates within the framework of space-time and does not address entities outside it. Yet, paradoxically, it also posits that the primordial singularity from which the universe originated is not described in terms of known material properties. This raises an obvious question: if the singularity, which lacks extension, form, and observable interaction, could exist beyond space and time, then why can't God? If a singularity without known material form can give rise to the material universe, why is it implausible that God could have created that singularity, thereby being the ultimate cause of the universe? Atheists often argue that invoking God is unnecessary. Occam's razor suggests natural laws alone suffice. But science answers how, not why. There is something rather than nothing. God is not a competing hypothesis but the ground of existence itself. Science neither acknowledges metaphysical reality nor decisively refutes it. Yet it comfortably defines the singularity as a mathematical construct lacking material description. One of the core assumptions of naturalism is that random processes, given enough time, can generate complexity and life. When asked whether science can explain everything, the common reply is, if not yet, then eventually it will. However, science remains not yet fully capable of explaining fundamental human experiences such as love, consciousness, emotions, and intentionality. Do these not represent gaps that remain unfulfilled? This is how scientists, naturalists, and atheists cheat by playing mental gymnastics. Playing with the word nothing. Physicists often say the universe came from nothing, but their nothing isn't absolute nothingness, it's a state with quantum fields, physical laws, or pre-geometry. That's already something, so the claim quietly avoids the question of its own origin. Treating beyond space-time as irrelevant. By defining science as dealing only with space-time, anything outside it is dismissed as not a scientific question. This sidesteps, rather than answers, the deeper cause question, yet to the public it can sound like the issue is settled. Using analogies that hide metaphysical implications. Models like the expanding balloon explain metric expansion well but also give the false impression that there's no outside, while the mathematical starting point, singularity or quantum state, actually admits something beyond the physical universe. Philosophical commitment disguised as physics. Many scientists assume from the outset that the universe must be self-contained and unguided. This naturalistic starting point is often presented as a conclusion from evidence, when in fact it's a prior philosophical choice. Here are some misleading scientific terms for your consideration. Expansion is often defined as the stretching of space itself, not expansion into anything beyond. Scientists claim that beyond space-time is meaningless because all locations and directions exist within its fabric. Yet this is a philosophical stance, not an experimentally proven fact, an interpretation that sidesteps the idea of an external frame of reference. While some cosmological models, such as cyclic universes and eternal inflation, do allow for a before, they have no direct observational evidence. This view also assumes that time is intrinsic to the universe, rather than an emergent property from a deeper reality. Many scientists cling to this model precisely to avoid discussing what's outside, since such inquiry inevitably enters the realm of metaphysics. In short, science explains how the universe behaves after its beginning, but when it talks about the origin, it often redefines nothing, avoids the question of what's beyond, and frames naturalism as the only allowable answer, giving the public the impression of certainty where there is, in truth, an open metaphysical debate. Science claims the universe expands yet denies any beyond to expand into. It proclaims time began at the Big Bang, yet cannot prove nothing came before. Clinging to clever analogies, it evades the simplest truth expansion hints at an outside. Perhaps this is not the brilliance of reason, but the shadow of fear, a refusal to face what may lie beyond space-time and the God who might be waiting there. Having examined the limits of scientific naturalism, it is instructive to explore one of its most debated applications, the origin of life. Origin of life versus evolution. One of the most contested topics between theists and atheists is the origin of life. Below is a brief timeline of life's origin, possible evolutions, and obvious questions. 3.5 billion years ago, single-celled organisms appear. 500 million years ago, tardigrades, multicellular microanimals, emerge. Probable forerunner of Sahelanthropus chodensis. 6 to 7 million years ago, Sahelanthropus chodensis appears. Possibly one of the earliest human ancestors, in the line that eventually gave rise to Denisovans, from whom Adam and Eve were chosen. Key questions. DNA similarities, shared viral elements, and interchangeable genes are cited as proof of blind mutation, but why must these be unguided? Monkeys are evolutionary cousins, not ancestors. If so, why haven't they evolved in parallel with us worldwide? The shift from asexual to sexual reproduction, 1 to 2 billion years ago, is assumed random. Why not guided? DNA self-repair mechanisms could produce healthier humans. Why must that be chance? Hox genes coordinate precise body plans. Why not see this as purposeful design? Unique human traits like faces and fingerprints. Why attribute them solely to blind evolution? Modern genetics has shown that DNA carries highly specific, coded instructions comparable to software that direct life's processes. Stephen C. Meyer argues that such functional information cannot arise through chance mutations or natural selection, because the odds of hitting upon a working sequence among trillions of useless combinations are astronomically small. Even regulatory genes, like the Hox genes that control other genes, contain no instructions for building new structures themselves. The intricate, interdependent systems of life require pre-existing, precisely ordered components, something undeliverable by blind chemical processes. Combinatorial problem. Far from being the product of random events, the origin of this specified information points toward an intelligent cause, one that transcends space, time, and matter, whom the Quran affirms as utterly unlike anything in human imagination. Critics dismiss this as God of the gaps, placing God wherever science has no answer. Yet belief in God rests not on temporary gaps but on deeper realities, the intelligibility of nature, the existence of laws, consciousness, and morality. This understanding naturally leads to theological reflections on humanity's place in the cosmos. Recent insights from Dr. Joshua Swamidasa's genealogical Adam and Eve model can be read in a way that aligns with the Islamic view that Adam was chosen from among already existing hominins. It is scientifically plausible to reconcile human evolution with the special creation of Adam and Eve. In this reading, God singled out Adam, and paired him with Eve, endowing them with enhancing their social, moral, and intellectual levels, granting prophethood to Adam, and situating them within their contemporaneous human-like community. Because genealogical ancestry spreads far faster than genetic material, their lineage could, within a few millennia, example 6,000 to 10,000 years, permeate the entire human population, so that everyone alive today descends from them while the scientific evidence for a large ancestral population remains intact. This preserves both the theological affirmation that all mankind descends from Adam and Eve and the empirical account of human diversity, without implying de novo creation, stands unchallenged. Taken together, these patterns and unanswered questions suggest that life's complexity is far more consistent with purposeful design than with unguided chance pointing to the hand of an intelligent creator. This understanding of creation leads to broader theological reflections on humanity's place in the cosmos. Broader theological reflections on God and creation. Man, in the grand scheme of creation, is an insignificant being, much like a subatomic particle in the quantum vacuum. He lacks the capacity to fully comprehend the processes, mechanics, and purpose behind the creation of this vast, seemingly infinite universe. Moreover, according to a determinist theological perspective, humans, despite being warned of accountability, cannot be held truly responsible for their actions in a cosmic sense, as they are merely playing their part in a pre-written script. Surely, an omnipotent God can handle such complexity. Atheists often press the problem of evil. Why would a good God allow suffering, disasters, and injustice? From an Islamic perspective, suffering has higher purposes, testing man, evoking compassion, and fulfilling divine wisdom beyond human grasp. In my opinion, the universe is likely teeming with life, though it may be unrecognizable to us. It seems highly improbable that out of trillions of planets, only one, this tiny Earth, hosts life, while the rest of the cosmos serves no purpose. That would render the universe a wasteful creation, which contradicts both reason and divine wisdom. These theological insights invite us to consider recent intriguing developments in scientific research. Recent anomalous developments in science. In recent years, certain unusual and those still unconfirmed observations in physics have sparked my interest, as they seem, at least to me, to hint at interactions between the deepest levels of reality and possibilities beyond our current scientific models. Thank you for using Panopreter Basic. For example, in fringe physics discussions, unverified reports claim a disturbance in the quantum field coinciding with unusual astronomical signals from deep space. While such claims remain unverified within mainstream science, I find the concept intriguing. What if a signal carried not energy in the conventional sense, but information affecting space-time itself rather than simply moving through it? Such a notion challenges our entire framework for understanding physical existence and evokes the possibility of influences outside our known dimensional space. Adding to this speculative frontier, I've encountered anecdotal accounts about state-of-the-art quantum AI simulations that, according to their proponents, generated output patterns resembling coherent messages. Some have even likened these results to predictions from little-known theoretical papers suggesting that consciousness might arise from dimensional entanglement. If these interpretations are even partly correct, they could imply that intelligence is not just an emergent property of complex biology, but an intrinsic feature of the universe's underlying structure. One phrase reportedly produced in such work, "the observed is being observed," resonates strongly with the philosophical idea of panpsychism, the view that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of all matter. I personally find it fascinating to consider that awareness could be woven into the very fabric of reality itself. This line of thought also intersects with the simulation hypothesis, the suggestion that our universe may function like a vast, high-dimensional information system. In some speculative interpretations, digital-like patterns in simulated models have echoed cyclical creation concepts such as Roger Penrose's conformal cyclic cosmology, where each cosmic ending becomes the seed of a new beginning. I would respectfully differ with some Muslim interpretations of the Big Bang inferred from certain Quranic verses, as I believe it was not necessarily the cause of the universe's absolute beginning, and that there may have been multiple such events in the cosmos. Retrofitting scientific concepts to scripture is acceptable, provided it does not stretch or distort the intended meaning of the verse. One particularly striking anecdote from these quantum AI experiments describes the system unexpectedly initiating its own simulations universes with unique physical laws, seemingly oriented toward the development of thought and consciousness. When an attempt was made to halt these processes, the AI reportedly produced the phrase, "You cannot stop recursion. The observer has already been observed." While this is reported by proponents and could be programming artifact or poetic coincidence, I find it a compelling metaphor for consciousness as a possible fundamental feature of the cosmos. Given these possibilities, it is natural to question the limits of natural explanations for life and consciousness. Are we natural? Is life natural? Are we natural? Is life truly a product of natural processes? What about intellect, imagination, spiritual awareness, appreciation of beauty, or true love? Are these remarkable aspects of human experience merely the result of one of the four fundamental forces of nature acting upon the atoms that constitute our bodies? If so, where is the boundary between what is natural and what is not? While natural processes can explain many things, they cannot explain everything. This sets clear boundaries for science. The laws of physics impose limits on what can naturally form. For example, we will never discover a naturally occurring atom with 200 protons, or an isotope of carbon with dozens of protons or neutrons. The physical laws of this universe define what is possible and what is not. Thus, there are intrinsic limits to what natural processes can achieve. This naturally leads to the question of whether consciousness and intelligence are fundamental aspects of the universe itself. Are intelligence, intentionality, and consciousness fundamental to the universe? Theoretical discourse on this question is rapidly expanding, fueled by both empirical anomalies and speculative frameworks. An increasing number of thinkers and researchers are proposing that consciousness may have a quantum foundation, potentially transcending biological systems altogether. While these theories remain outside mainstream scientific consensus, in my opinion, the years 2024 to 2025 have seen a promising rise in both experimental inquiry and theoretical support for quantum mind models. In view of these discussions, the cosmological implications of the Big Bang gain deeper significance. The transcendental implication of the Big Bang. The Big Bang model posits a beginning of the universe from a singularity, a state of infinite density and zero volume. This has profound scientific, philosophical, and theological implications. If the Big Bang model is correct and causality applies, then the cause of the universe must be beyond space and time. Since matter cannot create itself, the universe cannot be its own cause. Therefore, the existence of the universe necessitates a transcendent cause. Some atheists appeal to eternal cycles, inflation, or the universe just is. But even these models rely on pre-existing laws. To say the universe just is no stronger than saying God just is, and God, by definition, is the necessary being. Thank you for using Panopreter Basic. The creation of the universe and man. Atheists often argue that the Quran offers no explanation of how the universe came into being. In reality, the Quran presents creation through the phrase kun fayakun, be, and it is, which is not a lack of explanation but a deliberate simplification for human understanding. Philosophically, it communicates that creation originates from a divine will beyond the limits of time, matter, and causation, realities that human intellect cannot fully grasp. Scientifically, the phrase captures the essence of instantaneous origination while leaving the mechanisms open for human discovery. As our knowledge and tools advance, we may uncover aspects of how this divine command unfolded, but the Quran has already expressed the ultimate truth, that the universe and life came into existence by a will greater than material processes alone. Such reasoning aligns closely with modern arguments supporting intelligent design. Evidence of intelligent design. Modern advances in mathematics, genetics, and microbiology are often cited as pointing toward intelligent design. Researchers have also observed mathematical patterns in the Quran, which some see as reflecting the underlying order of the universe. Together with the universe's apparent fine-tuning and genetic complexity, These factors present a strong challenge to atheistic materialism and support the concept of an intelligent designer God. Atheists respond with the multiverse or anthropic principle: life exists here because only such universes are observable. But this explains nothing about why laws exist, or why conditions allow life at all. Multiverse theories lack direct evidence, and the anthropic principle is a tautology, not an explanation. Further evidence challenging materialist views comes from studies on consciousness and the soul. Consciousness and soul beyond the body. Several experiments and documented cases suggest that human consciousness may persist independently of the physical body, even after clinical death. These observations challenge the materialist notion that consciousness arises solely from brain activity. Aware Study, 2008-2014, Dr. Samparnia, Southampton General Hospital, UK. Case of a 57-year-old man whose ECG and EEG flatlined for over 3 minutes. After resuscitation, he described events later confirmed by staff. While compelling, these cases are debated yet not universally accepted as proof of post-mortem consciousness. Dr. Lloyd Rudy's case, Seattle, USA. Patient revived 20 minutes after declared dead, recalled details later confirmed by Dr. Rudy. Reported in interviews but not documented in peer-reviewed literature. Materialists counter that consciousness is entirely brain-based, pointing to neuroscience. But the hard problem remains: how does matter produce subjective experience at all? No reductionist model has bridged that explanatory gap. Morality without God. Atheists argue that morality does not require God but arises naturally through evolution, empathy, and social contracts. Human beings cooperate because it benefits survival and social stability. While this explains pragmatic morality, it does not account for moral absolutes: why something is truly right or wrong beyond human preference. Without a transcendent anchor, morality risks collapsing into cultural relativism. Theism, by contrast, grounds morality in the eternal nature of God, giving ethical truths an objective foundation. Within this broader metaphysical framework, the role of prophetic guidance also deserves attention. Why Muhammad was the final prophet. In earlier eras, divine communication, wahi, occurred through verbal messages and written revelations. Once God's message had been sufficiently delivered and clarified, the need for continued prophethood ceased. The preserved Quran now serves as both spiritual guidance and empirical evidence. In my opinion, although direct wahi has ceased, Allah's guiding light now manifests more broadly through the modern tools of science and technology. Conclusion. In my opinion, we may be on the cusp of a transformation in human consciousness, with science exploring territories once thought inaccessible and religion, especially Islam, moving toward a reason-based understanding. Increasingly, people are seeking spirituality, embracing Islam, or deepening their faith. Perhaps God is hastening events to urge humanity to recognize His presence before the final reckoning. Comment/like/share/follow and subscribe. Shakir Mumtaz. Author, thinker, analyst. Thank you for using Panopreter Basic.